Hey everybody, welcome back to Man Sewing. I certainly hope you had a fantastic week. I did. Now, why did I have such a good week, you're asking? Because I've been drinking coffee and sewing all week. That's right, today's tutorial is our awesome coffee travel kit. Now, with this awesome coffee travel kit, right, I want you to be thinking, what else can I put in a cool travel kit? Rob is a coffeeaholic and he travels so much that I need to have some way to make a fresh pot all the time. But as I'm showing you this today, I want you to be thinking what else you can make your travel kit for. So one of my things is I've always had one of these cool French press mugs, right? That I can make coffee on the go. But because I fly so much, I can't travel any longer with my cool little backpacker stove. You can't take the compressed fuel on the plane. So, grandfather, this one is for you. I went out and got myself one of these wonderful, like 300-watt cup heaters. It's like literally drops in your cup, heats up the water for you. And my grandfather used to always have this at the table. He loves a piping hot cup of coffee. And yes, the last bite of dessert must go with the last sip of coffee, so we keep it warm the entire time. So this whole kit was fashioned around these size supplies. So again, think about what you're going to put in here. I have my heater. Of course, I have a Tupperware full of fresh coffee grounds. Keeps it nice and tidy and fresh and clean for me. And then I also have an easy spoon. There's one other thing that I actually designed into this though, and that was a work surface. Coffee can make a mess, and this fiber is called Kraft-tex, and it actually takes care of moisture and all of that for you as you're working. So let's get this cup out of the way and tell you more about Kraft-tex. I didn't know a thing about this stuff, and it is super cool. Fairly new fiber. I think it comes from C&T Publishing actually. And it is a 54-inch wide by 19-inch package when you purchase it. And this is all you need for today's tutorial. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of elastic at the end too, but that's not a big deal. You can use all kinds of different closures. But yes, for our coffee kit or travel kit, basically one roll will make several of these. So again, 19 by 54 inches wide. To make my entire base and my pocket system, I actually started with a piece that was 19 inches by 22 inches. So let me show you that real quick. Now, before I walk you through the steps of creating your own travel kit, there's a couple things I want you to think about. Now, yes, you saw me. I leaked a picture of this on Facebook last week. Thanks for following along. Yes, Man Sewing has the best fans ever. And one of the questions was, does it come in other colors? And it certainly does. Kraft-tex comes in 5 colors now, and I love them because they're all manly. The other nice thing about these is you can actually paint or draw on top of Kraft-tex as well. And so I want to show you my 2 finished samples real quick. One of these here is a washed sample and the other is a unwashed sample. And let me explain washing. What I do for the washing is I take that whole 19-inch by 22-inch piece that I've already cut off of the roll, right? 19-inch roll. I cut it off of the roll and then I soaked it in a bucket of water. I'm not putting this in a washing machine and I'm not putting it in a dryer, but I soaked it overnight in a bucket of water and I kept coming out there and kind of massaging the fiber with the water to get it in there. And then I let it drip dry and sit on a towel for about a day, let's say, just so it was nice and dry. It didn't take very long, actually. I just wanted to make sure. I had never used it before. So then I was playing with that whole 19 by 22 inch chunk and I was rolling it and wadding it and rolling it and wadding it so that I would get this really cool texture, right? So this kind of to me looks like leather. So this is my statement about Kraft-tex, is it feels like paper. It can look after washed like leather. It sews like butter, but wears like iron. Check this out. I can't even tear this stuff. I love it. So with that said, now the steps for creating your coffee kit or whatever kind of travel kit you want. And remember, this is the method you're watching. The numbers will be custom for whatever you're building. So from that 19 by 22, I've actually cut down a couple of slices. This first piece is my base piece. This is the entire background for the whole kit, and it is a 12 by 22 inch cut. And then the first piece we're going to actually handle was the 5 by 22 inch cut. With our 5-inch strip, I have just hand folded over about 1/2 inch. And then what I actually did is I took the back end of my rotary cutter and I pressed this to kind of create a crease or a seam line. It just made it easier for me to stitch with it. And then I just stitched down the line. And a couple of the things with setup for a sewing machine. You do not need any kind of heavy duty needle or anything like that for your machine. But I used a fun thread that would look cool, kind of like an old leather bag. And then I actually set it for a triple stitch. So my machine is doing multiple stitches at once, so it looks really thick and heavy, like old, like the cords you get in your dog and cat food bag of food, kind of thing. So with that, triple stitch, but I also lengthen my stitch length up a little bit so that I'm not perforating the fiber as much. So about a 3.0, 3.5 stitch length on most machines is a really nice suggestion. So back to construction. With that, you've got parallel seams running down just like that. This piece is ready to go. To our 12 by 22 or our base piece, I took and measured up 5 inches from the bottom all the way to the top here. So that's 5 inches. And then I also marked in at 1/2 inch seam allowances. And the pencil mark is going to be invisible, but probably could be erased down the road if you needed it to. I'm just going to sew over the top of it basically. And what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to take my first piece, and all of these I'm setting so that my stitches are showing, or my folded portion of the Kraft-tex is showing. And I'm going to start in right at a 1/2 inch mark, and I'm going to slide this down just slightly to cover my pencil mark. The pencil mark is just to help me stay straight. And I'm going to walk over to my sewing machine here. You can back stitch if you would like, but we are also going to fold an edge on top of this piece right here. But let's back stitch anyways. Well, that's silly, I'm doing a triple stitch, so it back stitches with every stitch. And here we go. Okay, so I'm getting near the end here. And again, no real need to back stitch because it's doing the triple stitch for you. Get my needle up and out of the way. I'll slide over here, a little bit of trimming to do. I'll catch all the other side later. Now, here's what I mean by this is going to be your own custom setup. So how do you figure out what goes where? Just like this. I literally took my Tupperware container of my coffee in here and I set it in, and I'm just kind of folding it up and over and coming right back down. I would say make sure it slides out with a little bit of ease. So I'm going to give myself just a little bit of distance. And when I say distance, I'm not going to stitch right at there. I'm going to stitch over about 1/2 inch. So the other trick I've learned is I just take my pencil and I'm going to make a mark there and a mark here. And that's kind of my stitch line eyeball. I'm going to slide that coffee container out, and then I'm going to squish this down and out of the way. Okay, my marks are still lined up. Back to the machine I go. Okay. Get those edges stitched down nice. Now, the only disadvantage to the triple stitch is if you're already over caffeinated, is it takes 3 times as long and it wears and tears on my, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with myself in the next 15 seconds? We're just going to stitch through here. And the other thing is with each pocket, like I made the big one kind of a his and hers. My wife would rather have a cup of tea in the afternoon. So I will actually, I have a place for cream and sugar and tea and all kinds of things in hers. So I'm having lots of fun with this. So again, this is just going to stand back up. And then I kind of have created a couple of different creases just by going back and forth and folding that. I found that all that work is best one pocket at a time. And now my Tupperware is going to slide right in there. That works perfect. So the next thing is, let's see how Grandpa's coffee heater is going to fit in here. And I'm just going to roll it on over. Now this is where that pencil mark becomes so handy, because with that pencil mark there, I can really line things up again. And this one I want to be able to pull in and out also, but not super snug. So again, I'm making my pencil mark, making that pencil mark, slide that out, slide the Tupperware out. That was one time I got over to the sewing machine, I had all the stuff still on the kit. Back to the machine we go. And like if things moved around like they just did for me, having those 2 little pencil marks makes life so easy. Okay, so now if you had like a spoon or something you wanted to put in there, you could. But the other thing you could do, let's say you just wanted to fill in the gap. I'm going to give myself, I don't know, let's call it about a total inch worth of elevation, so about an inch in that space. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find that half-inch mark I have, and I'm just going to kind of set it on there, mark those, mark that. Okay, now what I can do to make things a little bit easier on myself after I cut my thread there is I can lay that on the table, and I know that that mark is going to have about a half-inch seam allowance there. Cut that off. Also cuts very easily, but that gets that bulk out from that side a little bit. Now I'm back in to the machine. Okay, so again, this is the 5-inch, that's the bottom. So what I want to do for this is kind of another fun little like pinch pleat, where I'm kind of folding it in both directions there a little bit. Let's try another one over here. And what I really like about working with this Kraft-tex fiber is I can really manipulate it. You may or may not be able to see, but there's some creases that I've created that allow me to kind of see what it is I'm doing. And I'm just going to massage this a little bit, like yay. So, what have I really done? Kind of an accordion fold in and out of that little section there. And now I'm just going to sew this bottom closed. And this would be a great little pocket where you'd put your little travel creamer or your travel sugars. This would also, of course, make a fantastic sewing kit, or like maybe something for your charging of all your media devices, all your cords and cables. Of course, I travel with so much electronics anymore, I have to have a suitcase just for all my cords and chargers. Okay, almost to the end now. And here we've got it. Needle up. Now, I'm going to start setting the side seam allowances first, and then I'll do the bottom and I'll finish with the top. So let's clear a little space. For the side seam allowance, again, I'm just going to take and I'm going to fold this over like this. I am eyeballing it. You could certainly use a ruler if you were more accurate than I am. And watch this trick. Here I am with my rotary cutter. Of course, the blade is definitely covered and closed. And I'm just creasing this as it goes. Just like that. Let's do the other side now, and then I'll just sew both of them at the same time. And so you can see that is going to cover up the pocket we've created, or the edge of the pocket we've created, so that adds some reinforcement there. So the bottom is all done now as well. And then for the top, what I basically found, let me show you again. I created an elastic loop to be my closure, so that when I'm all done, basically I fold my bottom up, wrap this around, make one loop this way and a twist, back to my old ponytail days, right? Know how to handle those elastic rubber bands. So that goes around just like that. For my elastic, standardized elastic cording. This is not elastic thread, it's an actual cording. Comes in usually a couple different sizes. I want to say this is a 1/2 millimeter, but I really don't know. For my sizing, I'm going to roll that bottom right up. I'm going to roll my top around like yay, and I'm just going to take this to figure out how big I'm going to make it. Once, twice around like that. I'm going to cut it there, set the other side aside. Now I'm going to take this, and in order to make my elastic have just the right amount of stretch is I'm going to cheat. Okay? I guess I could have cut it an inch shorter. That would have been an easy way too. Take in both tails, spin yourself a little loop like that. That's an old climbing knot, a 8/8 for you there. Now, trim those tails off. You could leave that knot exposed because it would look cool, I think. Or, even better, that knot can be stitched up into our upper seam, and that's going to hold it. So what we can do is figure out, let's see, if I'm going from my 10-inch mark down there, so right about here is my center point, and I'm actually going to stitch this. Let me see if I remember how I did it. Yep. Doesn't matter which way you change it, so I'm going to stitch it with my loop pointing out of my kit. So first thing, we're going to stitch the elastic in place so we're not monkeying with it the whole time. Make sure it's still centered. And now I've got that knot kind of up underneath my presser foot, so I'm going to be really careful not to go too wild with my machine, and I'm going to run a series of back stitches also, even though it's still set up for my triple stitch. And I'm going to do it one more time just to really secure this. And again, the back stitch to secure. Needles up. Okay, so when this comes out, let's trim this. These are going to be hard to get to later, so we're going to take the time to trim them all nice now. Trim, trim. And our last seam allowance we need to make is going to just fold this over like this. At this point, I'm going to fold my loop down so I'm not worrying about it when I'm near the presser foot of the sewing machine. And I'm going to go ahead, slide this under, triple stitch. Okay, so as I just finished this top seam, there's a couple things I want to point out as sewing tricks or techniques. Whenever you're coming over something really thick like that and it has already been secured, what you can also do is sew up to where that knot was in this project, and then I simply backstitch. I jump over it with the presser foot, backstitch again, and finish out the sewing. That's one way to do it if you're not sure how your machine's going to handle that thickness. And then the other thing that can happen, sometimes when we have a thick layer like that, some of us will see this like when we're hemming our jeans or something, we have this tendency to kind of push through that thick layer. And a lot of times it's that pushing motion while the machine is stitching that can cause you to break needles. Again, a broken needle is no big deal, but it can be a hazard to your fingers and or your eyes. So just avoid the temptation to push those thick seams through the machine. Try to let your machine do all of the work, right? And you'll learn with your machines what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. Real easy that way. Our coffee kit is all ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to get packed up here. I'm going to take my Tupperware and slide it in. Of course, grandfather's old cup heater fits perfectly there. And then my other pocket that I created on the fly, well, I could set some Kraft-tex or something in there, of course, right? Now, the nice thing about this, and this is why I like the elastic closure, is it's flexible with how long our tools that fit into our coffee kit will be. But I'm just going to bring that bottom up. That keeps things from sliding out. Fold it up this way. I have my loop out of the bag right now, folded up here. I'm going to take this and split it so I only have one of the loops going around like that. Then I'm twisting it. Let's hold that again and get the second loop to go around. And just like that, I have a killer coffee kit ready to travel, jump on an airplane, and meet you at our next location where it looks like I'll be buying the coffee here at Man Sewing.